The clock clicks when it passes 7:10. Someone is playing a keyboard, muffled through the walls. Birds. Someone's bathroom fan is on. Birds. We are never in silence. In stillness, the world comes to us. A car drives away. I can know when the traffic light on the street below my building changes, if I listen. Breathe. Piano. Birds. While we gathered on one side of the room for greetings, Claire serenely laid out red yarn across the floor in a straight line, intersecting the space. We knew when we crossed that line, we would be in performance. We would start together. You go when you're ready, and Bogart would say go before. You start by crossing the line, taking a walk into the space. You notice your pace, the floor under your feet, your desire to gravitate at any time in a particular direction. You observe your relationship to the space, to your feelings about the space, your relationship to the people who move around you. What colors are they wearing? What energy do they bring? You go from A, from A, from A, from A. From A, you will surprise yourself. Maybe you don't yet need to know. Maybe you do know, but you don't need to remember when you're on the go. The path always begins at where? Well, you're not sure. Only it was before. Only it was a place, but that doesn't matter because it was, and this is this, which is in relationship to the scene, is in relationship to you. This is the state of mind you must be in order to engage with children, in order to be in creation, in order to make revelations in art and science, and in order to walk with an Alzheimer's patient. Claire, can you hear me? Claire. While I was pregnant with Milo and working on my master's in theater at UC Davis, I had the honor of participating in a 2-week workshop with director Anne Bogart, Viewpoints and Composition. She would ask us as a group to begin each exercise in unison, and she would kindly berate anyone who moved too soon. It was impossible to start perfectly. But it was possible to do it almost nearly, and it started us with such momentum and heightened awareness that many inclinations furiously followed. We were fully committed by then. But the commitment we learned was not to go from point A to point B. It was a commitment to be changed at any moment by the people and environment around us, to experience ourselves in relationship to every other person or thing, to let our paths divert at any time, and to recommit fully to each change in direction. How do you commit fully when you don't know where you're going, and where you're going could change at any moment? So you commit to time. You have a device, you have an observer, a watcher of time, or you watch each other and observe when the group is coming to an end together. Your knowledge that point B will come, even if you don't know what it will look like until you've arrived, is what gives you the freedom to say yes with abandon. In the practice of authentic movement with Shannon Rose Riley, she would have us close our eyes and follow any imagery, feeling, or impulse to move our body. While any of us took the turn of mover, eyes closed, we would always have an observer with a watch or a timer who would provide us safety against walking into walls, but who, more importantly, would bear witness to our journey so that they would recount to us where they noticed we had gone, thereby helping us process our experience. And when we leave performing arts spaces, these playgrounds and group therapy sessions, who is our observer then? Who is there to watch for our safety? As soon as Milo was born, I became the observer for my children. I held the timer in my hand and watched for their safety. But I barely held any control between points A and B. I lived in one need, and then the next one, and then the next. Try as I might to finish any one task, there was Milo with some new discovery, urgent and unyielding, and nothing to do but try to keep pace. If you're good at executive function, then I imagine it's very helpful to divide the day into all B's and A's, but a less neurotypical mind will not see it straight. You may thrive when the rules are in place, or you may regard every task as an opportunity for failure. You may be committing every moment to your dynamically changing environment and be unable to filter for point B. If you feel like a fish out of water, then creativity is where you go to finally swim again. You live in deliberate defiance of every straight line. Milo was in his defiance then, and now it's Claire. Even now, somewhere inside, she's skinny dipping in the moonlight, listening to the music of woodland fairies and calling everyone else to join in. I met Claire in this mental space. I had been taking Scott and Annette Reese-Kelman's improv class for a while, and when my friend Carlton started a class of his own, Claire was there to support him. They were true partners and had done the work together for years. At some point in the walking exercise, someone would choose to stop, and we would come to a stop as a group. We were now in what we called deliberation, checking it out. Here's the part where you breathe. You feel your fingers tingle. You hear birds through the open window, cars, the hum of the refrigerator, the ringing in your own ears. You feel where the breeze lifts up the hairs on your arm. You feel your legs, tired from an earlier walk. You feel your back twinge. You look up. If you're writing, you feel your fingertips on the keyboard or the flow of your pen. There is a new bird who just chimed in. You see your shirt is blue in relationship to nothing else around you, but you notice a treasure hunt full of reds in the room. Suddenly, you can't keep up with everything your unfiltered senses can observe, and all of this which is. You observe relationships between people or things you never noticed before, how a curtain ring repeats in another's ear, or how two people on opposite sides of the room sigh in unintentional unison. The moment you consider these connections, your mind goes to empathy. Your impression of a wall, of a window, the angle of a corner, the person you are standing right next to, changes you. Claire is a teacher, too. I say is, even though she's retired, because I hear even to this day she talks about the children and makes plans for them. Carlton and Claire came into my life at a time when I needed propping up desperately. Carlton encouraged me to make theater, and Claire supported my parenting while my marriage was falling to pieces. They were my splints and scaffolding, my shored-up foundation and seismic retrofitting. For 2 weeks every summer, Claire lifted my kids out of 2 homes held together by threads and let my kids build magical worlds in a creek near her school up in Washington. You could call it camp and say she was their teacher, and she is a great teacher at that. But her only goal at camp in the summer was to give the kids a place to let imagination wander, using tools of only wood and leaves, sticks and water. I sent the kids off each day with relief that their minds wouldn't hunger for magic to believe in. And in his class, saying yes, body-centered improvisation for life and art, Carlton would see to it that my mind wouldn't hunger either. So when Claire started losing her way, there was no question that I would be a companion on her journey. Every Wednesday night we came together for improv and made such incredible discoveries. One time Carlton led us outside for our deliberation. We ventured out in silence, finding places to stop and check it out. We would pass some of us and gather with others in groups. We mirrored street signs and window displays, slowly making our way around the block to the Hollywood Theater. It's not a scene-based or character-based kind of improv. It's more like jazz. There is a framework of rules, simple choices you can commit yourself to, which provide clarity for both performers and audience. The point is to keep going, keep creating in real time, let out words or sounds or actions faster than you can censor yourself, before you can find a way to make it clever, or if you get scared, or if you get stuck, get stuck, get stuck. Get stuck. You can move into repetition, repetition, repetition until a new impulse drives you forward. You can at any time mirror the sounds or actions of others in the room, and you will find an ending together. The simple rules of this improv make it possible to achieve an entirely compelling performance with any number of performers, experienced or not, within a 1.5-hour class. The framework helps make it accessible to anyone who wants to play along, even if you hesitate. The simple rules of this improv. The simple rules, though. Claire never cared much for the rules. As we watched her Alzheimer's develop, we saw how the rules became no concern to her at all. But she was still committed, and she was still very much into it. She was always ready to play. We'd do riff lines in groups of 2 or 3. We would choose between sound and movement or riff. You would catch another's words and movements and mirror them. You might sing or find a percussive tone, sometimes in unison, sometimes as a counterpoint to others. Claire, though, she did whatever she would, but she did it authentically with great intention and empathy. With my limited time working full-time in parenting, I offered to take her out one night a week, other than improv nights, to be her observer and caretaker for a while. There is so much improvisation required with dementia, so many times to say yes and, to match the energy you are given, to say, what can you do today, and improvise around that. We started out going to movies or plays or finding an event of some kind. One time we went bowling, and she beat me effortlessly. Over time, as her attention span waned, we switched to just dinner and a beer. I would listen to repeated stories as for the first time and answer questions I'd answered many times before. Once you accept that there's no remembering, you allow it to simply be the conversation that it is. After all, there is no choice. We still shared love and affirmations, laughter, and sometimes tears. You hear birds through the open window. You feel your fingers tingle. Here is the part where you breathe. Our weekly nights out went like that for maybe a couple of years. During that time, Claire's daughter moved to Portland, worked from home, and was able to care for her 24/7. But before much longer, Claire needed the extended level of care that only a nursing home could provide. Each of these adjustments was a very difficult transition, and during her tenuous times, I tried to provide a container within which Claire could let go of her troubles for a while and play. You feel your legs ringing from an earlier walk. You feel your arm where the breeze lifts up the hairs, the tired of your own ears, the cars of the refrigerator hum. When it became clear that beer was no longer a good idea for Claire, maybe it never was, but she sure as hell wanted one, I changed our visiting hours to Sunday mornings. I took her to the ecstatic dance classes she'd been to for years. She had many kindred spirits whom she recognized but no longer knew, and they understood she was showing up with everything she had, which was not in words or understanding, but maybe just a moment to dance one-on-one with you. And I danced too, truly ecstatically. But I was also Claire's designated observer. I was the one to put on her shoes and hold her hand out the door when we were through. There's a new keyboard who just chimed in. If you are writing your fingertips on the flow of your pen, you look up, you feel your twinge. There were times towards the end of our journey together when the best we could do was walk the short path through the forest next to her care home and get a little bit of sun. This was done in full deliberation. I would hold Claire's arm and she would do the work of one foot in front of the other. We would stop, check it out, breathe, feel the even asphalt path under our feet. See the sun filter through the forest, find the birds. Another couple would come through, quick and chatty, and we felt the contrast of their energy as we took every step so gingerly. Claire would shiver from a breeze that would have never fazed her before. She seemed suddenly so vulnerable in the outdoors, even as I imagined her spirit wanting nothing more. Birds. Muffled as playing a wall through someone's keyboard. The click clocks when it passes 10:07. They were very short walks in what felt like very long spans of time, and I spent much of our shuffling progress taking note of leaves, the groupings of trees, and many shades of green, seeing exactly what Claire wanted us all to see in the miraculously varied, unfolding biology of nature. She will always be my teacher. A bathroom fan drives away. In stillness, the bird comes to us. We are never in silence world. Someone's car is on and on. Some paths are meant to meander. Some paths cannot be known before they're completed, but we always know there will be a beginning, a middle, and an end. Sometimes the only way forward is to improvise, 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 observe in empathy, allow relationships to change our course, return the energy you're given, and recommit with the same energy in every new direction. Over time, we will all be witnesses to each other. We will all hold containers for our beautiful souls to create and wander. If you can't reach any magic in your life, then simply stop. Check it out. Think of Claire and start listening. In stillness, the world comes to us. I can know when the traffic light on the street below my building changes if I listen. Piano. Piano. Birds. Breathe.